Welcome to episode 5 of Just Cause, the podcast of the Just Love Collective. I'm Dilys, one of the co-hosts.
And I'm Nathan, the other co-host, and I have a question for you, Dilys. Does hanging out with young people make us seem younger by association or older by contrast?
Ah, Nathan, what a question. That will be up to our listeners to judge, because in this episode, we hang out with 3 young people who are working towards justice in their various fields of work and study. To be intergenerational has been one of our key values in the work we've been doing with Just Love Collective. So there's no way we could record a season and not spend some time speaking with justice advocates from a different generation.
So let's introduce our 3 conversation partners for this episode. Pax Fordham is an Oakwood University graduate with a major in film and a minor in political science. He interned with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation on Capitol Hill and now works in communications for a member of the United States Congress.
Another of our conversation partners is Ashley Samuel, a third-year medical student at Loma Linda University. Her justice work began with climate activism in college and has deepened through medicine. She has been involved in an HIV/HCV clinic serving unhoused populations. And last but not least, Alanah Alphonse, who is a senior at Washington Adventist University, majoring in political studies, passionate about the power of story, history, and education to create change. Alanah is active in her campus Black Student Union, and her thesis explores activism in college students, comparing today's generation with the student activists of the 1960s and 70s. I can't wait to read about her research, Nathan.
Indeed. So thank you for joining us for this conversation, and we will be back at the end of this episode with a challenge reflecting on some of the things that we discuss in this episode.
So here we are in another episode of the Just Cause podcast, and I'm super excited for the guests we have with us today because they represent the present and the future of justice work. And our focus today is on how young adults, or if we say in the South SPD area, the young adults, how are they engaging with justice? And so I want to invite each of you to share with us your story so far, particularly as it relates to working and speaking for justice.
Maybe we can work from the least coolest people to the coolest people, so I'll start. So my name is Pax. I graduated college about maybe like 2 years ago. I went to Oakwood University and I majored in film, but I actually minored in political science. I've always kind of just been interested in government and the sisters of government and leadership and whatnot. And probably how I kind of got into my interest in justice has been when I became an intern with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation at the beginning of last year. So basically interned on the Hill for a member of Congress, recently started working for a member of Congress in the communications sect, where I have always been interested in learning how systems work so that we can dissect how we approach them in the fields and in the streets. And I kind of like being an insider. So, and that's kind of just always been something about me. So I guess my journey towards justice has always been trying to understand and spend my early career understanding the system.
Cool.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alanah, and I'm a senior at Washington Adventist University. My story is pretty recent, actually, because I just changed my major pretty recently into being a political studies major. And the way I'd put it is just seeing headlines and learning about things in history that I just did not like. So I have this running list of my head. This law, don't like that. This thing just happened, don't like that. And instead of just saying, I don't like everything, I should find a way to do something about it. So that's really where I am. My favorite work is with my campus's Black Student Union. I love them so much. And I'm also interning with a fellowship on campus that has to do with both religion and public policy. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm a third-year medical student at Loma Linda University. I began getting involved with justice starting in college, getting involved with groups that were interested in social justice through climate change. And then as I pursued medicine, I became more passionate about making sure there was equal opportunities for medical care for all people. And throughout my medical school, I became involved in a HIV, HCV clinic for the unhoused population. And so through that, I've been able to see how healthcare can really shape persons' opportunities. And just want to continue fighting for justice for all people, specifically through healthcare. And then I've started a club at my school. Restarted a club um, trying to bring to the surface for all medical students social justice issues.
Very cool. Well, thank you all and each for being with us today and for sharing something of your stories, but also something of your passion and your insights. And one of the things at Just Love that kind of drives some aspects of what we do is that we recognize that the world looks different from different starting points and from different vantage points, and that includes generational ones. And so we're really cool. We've got, really excited that we've got some youngs that we can pick their brains, and as older folks, Dilys, we can kind of get some perspectives of how the world looks from your perspective. And so we want to start with just a really generic, perhaps general kind of question. How would you define justice when you talk about, I'm really passionate about this aspect of justice, and then somebody says, well, what do you actually mean by that? Can you give us a little bit of a reflection of what you mean when you use the word justice?
To me, justice is finding the balance of where God put us. The reason why I call them the isms, racism, sexism, all the isms, the reason why they bother us is because that's not the nature that God made us for. It feels wrong because that's not what we were made to do. So justice is just really putting us back to where we're supposed to be. How are we supposed to treat each other? How's the world supposed to go?
Mm-hmm. The way things ought to be. Anything more? What else can we add to that?
I'd agree with Alanah. I think it reminds me of equal opportunity and making up for the things that have been done in the past to make things unequal. Like Alanah said, getting us to where we're meant to be. So whether that is, fighting for affordable housing or affordable childcare or healthcare, or because of communities that have been disenfranchised because of historical things that have happened in the past, getting us to an equilibrium where everyone has a shot at a fair, affordable, better life. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Ashley, we've heard from the political scientists, but you're the real scientist amongst us. Can you give us a little bit more from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think for me, at its core, justice means simply just equal rights and equal dignity for everyone. When you're born, you don't get to choose your race, your family, where you're born, your genetic dispositions, anything like that. But so often we're put in different positions in life due to those things that we can't control. So I think that when you wear it down to its core, it's just making sure everyone has equal opportunities, like Pax and Alanah also added.
Mm-hmm.
I love this idea of equilibrium and going back to the way it was supposed to be, especially when we're using a Judeo-Christian lens, right? Because I think so often what we're hearing in the streets is a version of what the Bible teaches that doesn't always align with what the Bible says, right? There's depends on who's interpreting it. And so I'm wondering, how does this commitment to justice, this invitation to justice, connect with your understanding of faith?
I can start. So, as a Christian, we believe God made everyone equal. No person is made better than another person. So, and through that lens, all people should be treated equally, despite different opportunities that they have, despite sins they commit or anything like that. God created us all the same, and God loves us all the same. So all the judgment is left up to Him, and all we can do while we're here is just try to encourage each other to do the best we can and not impose our own judgments and um, determine what people deserve in that way.
Just to add on, I'd say that justice is woven into the story of Jesus. You see Jesus, he comes and he's like, I'm going to come and change your entire social order. He goes and he speaks to women. In that time and place, women are not important, but women become the most important characters in the resurrection story. And then you see him changing racial norms when he goes and speaks to the Samaritans. So I think Jesus' entire thing is about justice. Any story you look at, it's going to be sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Alanah there. Most, like most of the movements and the things that we've seen in history that kind of inspire me have kind of been led by Christians who were leading out of a countercultural philosophy that kind of is inspired by Christ. Like one of the interesting things is like Christ challenges us to approach issues of morality and injustice and all of these things and oppression with tools that aren't really carnal, but tools that kind of challenge us to love when we're not really in the mood to, or we really want to. And I think, I think our role in making this world look more like the kingdom of heaven is kind of only really found in the mission of Christ. And if you kind of look at the receipts throughout history, a lot of times we only really get stuff done when we kind of reflect the mission of Christ. So yeah.
Mm. Is this kind of the faith that you've grown up with, or is this something you've grown into through experiences that you've had, more recently? One or two of you have said that this is something that's kind of recent. Has it been some kind of transition in your own faith, or is it something that you find in your, the tradition that you've grown up in?
It's kind of hard to define it. I always learned about what the right thing to do is and what kind of person I should be. That was always separate from who God was and who God called me to be. And then I got older.
Mm-hmm.
2020 is like the starting point for everything for most people our age, I think. 2020 happens, and I'm like, hey, God, what? And that's when I kind of start to move the two ideas closer. Like maybe God does call me to be a person that calls for the things that I have been taught to be good.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting when you say like, is it the faith I've grown up with and the tradition I'm in? Because it kind of begs the question of like, what tradition or what church are we talking about? Like, are we talking about the American church? Are we talking about the Seventh-day Adventist church? Are we talking about the Christian nationalism church? Are we talking about the pop culture church? Are we talking about the prosperity? There's a lot of churches out there. So I think probably from a young age, I've been fascinated by how many churches there are in the world and trying to kind of figure, and not talking about denominations, but like philosophies and like figuring out what is kind of the one that's the real, because there's a lot of ones that feel incongruent and feel maligned in some way. So I think a lot of it has probably come with trying to broaden my scope, study history, and read more about different traditions and leaders in the past that have done different things from different walks of life, and trying to piece together of like, okay, these people did this thing right here. Okay, the Puritans kind of had this that kind of made sense for me. Okay, the civil rights movement, they kind of knew what they were doing here. And I think everyone in America, like I feel like all believers in America right now are kind of trying to do this thing of, okay, what is the real, not even what is the real one, like the real group, but what is the philosophy that is not watered down,
Yeah, what is the authentic Christianity amongst all these Christianities as you've described it? Yeah. Ashley, what's been your experience in, growing in your faith and your understanding on these topics?
Yeah, I think that Christianity is often perceived. It can be perceived negatively. I've grown up Christian my entire life, so I've had the positive experience. But growing up, going to college, and meeting people who don't share the same faith as me, it's interesting to learn their perspective. For example, missionaries. I grew up going on mission trips because service is important. Once again, giving back to people who don't have the same advantages as us. I always saw as a positive. But I've seen other people see being missionaries as something that's temporary and can even like cause harm to people, specifically in the medical field. You go to a place, give them medical care for 1 week, and then never come back. Those people still continue to have those issues. You do something like a surgery that might be helpful long term, but if you give them diabetes medication for 1 week, they're going to run out in 3 months, and then they're stuck with their same problem. So um, it's hard to see other people have a negative perspective on Christianity in that way. But it's definitely important for us to understand not everything we do, although we may perceive it as correct in our own view, is being perceived with our good intentions. And I think that applies to a lot of things, especially in justice, because we're so passionate about different missions, and we're like, we're going to go out and do this, but everything has an opposing view, and people are not always going to see it in the way that we intend. So, yeah, I think that even though growing up with one religion and consistently continuing to practice it is something that's really strengthened my faith throughout my life, it's important to continue to integrate other people's perspectives on Christianity and not continuing to just bear forward and think what I know is right, and what I'm doing is right, despite my own beliefs.
Yeah. And I guess apart from Dr. Brooks, who is here with us, who is somebody that you look up to and admire in this kind of work? And Dilys, I can see you laughing. As you've grown in your understanding of these topics, who are some of the people, maybe historically, maybe personal connections, that have inspired you to sort of orientate your life, at least at the moment, in some of these directions?
Dr. Brooks definitely is someone I look up to. But right now in my life,
Correct
I think.
Sorry.
I hope that's a plus 10 points for me. But
Yes.
right now in my life, I feel like people who inspire me and kind of strengthen my desire to continue to fight for justice is my peers. I think other people my age and other students in my medical school like really strengthen my courage to continue to fight for this, just because some of us feel like we don't have enough of a voice at our young age. We might not have as much experience in life, don't have enough power. None of us are doctors yet, or like top dogs in our field yet, to have that kind of influence to change things. But I think knowing that people genuinely care and are genuinely so passionate about these things make me continue to believe that there are good people in the world and that want to inspire this kind of change. And I think that's what helps me keep going, just knowing that people aren't giving up, and people aren't saying, oh, I'm just one person, I'm not going to make enough change, or these things are never going to change because of society, politics, etc. So I think that's been like my biggest source of strength.
I think in history, for me, like a lot of my inspiration has probably come from like reading Martin Luther King and John Lewis autobiographies and kind of studying their movement. In modern day, like people that I probably look up to, I think a lot of it goes back to thinkers who kind of spend a lot of the time asking the questions, or at least trying different approaches out of faith of how we can kind of live in this fragmented, divisive country together. So it's like, I really like the work of Tim Keller. I really like the work of I look up to Charlie Dates a lot, who's another pastor, and Michael Eric Dyson. A lot of people that kind of like to blend justice and also asking the questions of how can we love our neighbor through this, and how can we kind of carry that on. So that's probably voices that have been in my head lately.
Yeah, cool.
Pax, I love your answer so much, because I was going to say John Lewis also. One of my favorite things about John Lewis is that his story starts right before he gets into college. He's trying to apply for schools, and he's saying, like, I can't get into this school, I can't do this, I can't do that. And he just jumps right into that world. And another person that's more recent for me, she's on social media. Her name is Taylor Cassidy. And what she mainly does is kind of give positive stories. And I think positivity is so, so important, because if you have a positive lens on history, you're kind of fixing any errors in the narrative. You're going in and you're telling people you are enough. Here, he's an example of a person who did something good for the community. So I think that's kind of like an undercover way to bring justice into things. So I like her work.
Cool.
Wow, you just gave me a new person to check out, Alanah. So, what do you wish older people knew about younger people and how you all see the world? Because I think there's been this idea of the cancel culture, the cancel generation that has been in the zeitgeist, recently. And now it seems like the adults are the ones that are canceling. Are the so-called adults, but that's a whole other conversation. Um, and so I'm just curious about, based on where you are right now, students out of school, interning, in graduate school, what do you wish we would know about how you all are looking at the world and looking at what's going on in the world right now, especially around this area of justice?
My thing is, I would probably just say in this moment, and this probably goes like specifically when I think of like those who hold the most political power right now compared to like a voter base that's of people of younger. I think there's a hunger for to not act like the way the world is unfolding right now is normal and not be going about things in the normal way. And of course, like I even question my friends like, what exactly do you expect leaders to do, and what you're a fan of democracy, but like you don't want, what means do you want to solve issues, right? But I I do think a lot of times, especially like political leaders who have held seats and positions and titles for years, and kind of doing a style of leadership that they kind of used in the 80s and the 90s, and probably need some form of framing of knowing that's not really how we do things now, or people that we feel like aren't carrying out justice aren't playing by the same rules that we used to. And maybe I guess there's a hunger right now for accepting that this is a different time and it might need a different approach. I can't tell you I have a solution for what that is, but yeah.
I just want to kind of tie back into the different time, different approach. Um, there's a different way that we absorb information. Like right now, if I open any of the too many social media apps on my phone, I can see a live stream, a TikTok, a post of something that is happening across the world. It could be a tragedy, it could be an amazing, it could be a great thing. So we're getting so much information at the same time, and that really just builds up the question, what is going on? This is wrong. What are we going to do about it? And from my own experience, I've heard people look at me, go, wow, you're being really woke right now. I don't think that's a bad word. You're being really woke right now. You're like talking too much about these topics. I don't think that's true. Now, I understand the way sometimes younger people can express their anger about social issues might be a little misguided, but instead of just condemning that or laughing at it, you take that energy, because you need that energy to fix the world, and kind of reframe it into doing what can actually make change.
Yeah, I'll add on. I kind of agree. I think, um, at least the interactions I've had with some older generations, is that they kind of think of us as naive to how the world works. Okay, you're young, you want free healthcare, you want free housing, you want free education. Those things can't happen because X, Y, and Z. And I understand there are complexities and nuances to having all those things. But I think what they just see is us wanting a utopian society, thinking, okay, we're going to scream and shout in the streets until we get what we want. But I think they don't understand that we do understand a lot more about how the world works. And um, I think we're just maybe being a little bit more louder. Maybe, like Alanah said, maybe speaking um, in ways that aren't always best perceived. But I think if they knew that the things we want, we understand aren't a perfect world. We're not aiming for that. We understand that's not completely achievable. But I think if you don't strive, if you don't shoot for the stars, you're just never going to get what you want if you don't believe that it could possibly happen. So I think having them understand we want the best, but understanding that we'll still aim as high as we can for what we want, if that makes sense.
I think I also probably add, in addition to all those points, is like a lot of times people in my generation, not to generalize generations, but I feel like a lot of times people in my generation have a strong desire to see, um, just the values that are spoken of applied with action. So like, you know, one specific example being because of like the information era that we've grown up in, there's a high awareness of how conglomerates and money and funding and donating applies to every single thing we do. And I think a lot of people in my generation are willing to like put our money where our mouth is, saying, okay, yeah, we're not going to shop here. We're not going to buy from this place. Oh, we're not going to donate to this. Oh, we're not going to support this artist because they donate to this thing and they donate. And you can argue that's a cancel thing or whatever, but also it's just like, we care about these values and we don't do, there's probably not as much interest in incrementalism because probably we have kind of fell out of love with that because whatever. But I think there's a lot of drive to put your money where your mouth is and stand on the issues you care about, even when they're not in your fiduciary interests. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably one thing too.
Yeah, that's cool. One of the things I possibly get accused of, or I certainly did when I was a young person starting out working in the church and making noise on some of these topics, was being young and hopeful. And I kind of joke these days that I can't stop myself becoming less young, but I can stop myself becoming less hopeful. And I guess one of the questions that I'm reflecting is some of the things you're sharing and some of the things, you're all young people starting out on careers, studying, working hard in your different places and contexts. What is the thing that you're hopeful that you may be able to contribute to the world?
I think we're entering an era where it's going to be harder and harder to see people as human. I think that our algorithms are more segregated than water fountains in the 1960s, and I think that there are many incentives for us to hate people more and more. I hope that my contribution to society can be forging bridges and forging paths for us to see each other as human again and find some form of love. I don't know.
I'm going to quote that line. That's a very important line about
It
how our
is.
algorithms are messing with us. And yeah, I think that's really significant.
I'm going to quote it too, because I think that is I'm a sci-fi girl. And so I'm always making references to sci-fi movies, like the greatest of all time is Matrix. I don't care what y'all think, but I think it really captured the whole idea of you're plugged in or you're plugged out if you really are seeing the world the way the world is. And Pax, before you made that comment, I hadn't put those lens on the fact that it is true. The algorithms are segregating us and we are signing up. We are complicit in that segregation. So thank you for that.
If I could just jump in, I'm not sure exactly what I want to do just yet, but what is super, super important to me is education. I'm a nerd. My mom's a teacher. I like learning things. And the more that I learn about other people, their experiences, and where they come from, the more that I see them, as Pax said, as human. And I can't really humanize you if I don't understand you. So what I want to do as often as I can, I want to learn about you. I want to teach you about myself. Let's build bridges and connect each other. And I think that's like half the journey, honestly. Once we start learning to understand each other, then we're set.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think my goal in terms of justice is just making sure everyone is getting care, which seems like a big goal because there's a lot of people and a lot of people who don't get care. But I think I can't treat everyone in the world, but I can treat my patients I see that day with every ounce of care that I have, and making sure that their needs are met. And so I think just doing my best and with every patient I see is my goal, especially those who are most vulnerable to the injustices that we face in society. I remember when things were happening in Gaza, and I was just so heartbroken because I'm thousands and millions of miles away from them. It's like, how can I impact them? And I spoke to someone and they said, you're doing work every day by studying to be a doctor, because even though you may not help the people right now today, but you're going to be able to help someone in the future who's suffering from the same kind of injustices, not being able to get health care. So I think that's really my biggest driver. I know I may not be the first doctor to cure cancer or do something like that, but if I can provide the best care to my patients and know that the care that they're receiving is just and equal to every other patient I see, I think that will be my greatest goal that I can accomplish.
So one of the things we'd like to do is we're getting towards the end of our conversation, and we really appreciate what you've shared, and we're trying to listen and learn, and but we want to lend you our platform for a minute or two each to talk about something that you're passionate about, something that you would really like to see changed. Perhaps it's something even that our listeners can respond to. Is there some group that you're supporting or working with that you'd like to, give a plug for, something you're involved with or something that you just admire in the world? We're happy to share our platform for a couple of minutes just to let your voice be heard in this direction.
One of my close friends just started a new nonprofit called Educate to Liberate, which is basically promoting education, like critical learning and like policy, like teaching and instruction to underfunded public school areas. Basically, just getting kids in started with politics and started in learning about policy and all those things. I think they're kind of starting off with good work, kind of just like getting like some camp trainings and some sessions going, teaching kids things and seminars and stuff like that. So that's probably one group that I've been a fan of and I've been trying to support as many ways. Shout out Johanna for all the leadership they've been doing.
So it's Educate to Liberate.
Yeah.
And you can give us their details that we can put in the show notes for this.
Yeah, sure.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
So I do not have an organization that I would shout out right now, but I'm honestly going to always tie it back into fixing the story, understanding the story, because if you know your history, you might not make the same mistakes in the future. So that is something I am so passionate about. That's my main thing. I want to know where we came from and where we can keep going next.
And you're currently working on your senior project as part of your study.
I am.
Is there something in that you could share a little bit of a glimpse of?
There is. I would love to. So the main idea of my thesis, I'm trying to whittle it down a little bit, is studying activism in college students, because like John Lewis, so many of these big activists that you hear about, they weren't full adults yet. They were like in their teens, in their 20s. And what I found is this really cool theory that people our age care so much about social justice and they're so loud about it because of a combination of like them reaching a critical age and like this new like bunch of information that's coming at them. So I wanted to compare my generation's like use of college protests and different things to that of the like 60s and 70s. And the connections are there. And I'm super excited to start interviewing people my age and saying, hey, what are you doing? Where are the connections between the people that we are coming after and what can we learn from them? Because there's definitely a lot we can learn.
That is very cool.
Thank you.
Ashley.
Yes, so I'm currently working to start a club at my medical school to give a space to medical students specifically to discuss social justice issues and current events that are pertinent not only to healthcare, but also just globally and in society as well. So if you're a medical student at Loma Linda, I would encourage you to join that. But besides that, I would say, I think the greatest thing we can do for each other is just take the time to sit down and listen. Like Alanah said, we learn a lot from just talking to each other and learning more about what every person is going through and what they're struggling with. And I know that I get that tip from my attending when you're with your patients. You don't need to talk. You just need to listen and hear them out and reaffirm the things they're saying to you. You don't need to fix every problem as they're telling you. The best thing that you can do to create that connection is just listening. So I think that's something that we can do a better job of, myself included. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. This has been a rich conversation. And I want to thank you, Pax. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Alanah, for coming into this space and giving us a window into how young adults are navigating the injustice and the wisdom that you all have gleaned and are putting into practice as a response by loving, knowing, telling a story, and learning about other people. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
I enjoyed that conversation despite some of the technical difficulties that we had in the recording process that have been carefully edited out.
I am really thankful for technology that allows us to do that kind of editing. You know, Nathan, I left that conversation genuinely encouraged. These three are not waiting for permission. They are already in it. And you know what stayed with me was Pax's line about algorithms being more segregated than water fountains in the 1960s. That stopped me. I mean, you know, it's a reminder that the walls between us are real, even when we can't see them, which is exactly why this intergenerational dialogue, the challenge, matters so much.
So we want to invite you to have a conversation like this sometime in the next week or so. Find someone in your family, community or church that you have some friendship with, but who is from a different generation, whether older or younger, and ask them some of the similar questions that we've asked Pax, Ashley and Alanah.
Ask them about how they might see and engage the world differently than you, and how their formative experiences might have been different from yours. And what are the justice issues that they are passionate about?
Can keep the conversation going, but thank you for joining us for episode 5 of the Just Cause podcast. Make sure you subscribe to this feed to get more episodes as they're released in coming weeks. And thank you for adding your reviews where you have accessed this episode and for recommending this podcast to your friends and churches.
To discover more about Just Love Collective, visit our website, justlovecollective.org, and connect with all the other good things we're doing, including our regular Pulse e-magazine, fortnightly newsletter, Just Love Notes, the Just Love Book Circle, and other occasional events.
We will be back soon with another episode of Just Cause. Thank you for being part of our Just Love community.